Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to another episode of Finding Freedom Through Confidence, where we always say that confidence isn't something you pick up from a supermarket shelf, it is an ever growing muscle. If this is your first time coming to this session, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And if you are a returning audience member, we appreciate you always, and we also thank you so much for returning and for joining us. I am Tanique Easy, speaker, corporate trainer, facilitator, empowerment coach. And I help new frontline and mid level managers stem the flow of turnover, disengagement, and poor leadership execution so their companies stop losing money by equipping them with the mindset skills they need to retain talent, drive performance, and deliver ROI using my MVP proprietary framework. And so, over the last couple weeks, we have been on a journey. We have been through this journey of the leadership belief engine. We're looking at where leadership is not just titles, but as roles. We're taking it from this aspect of being the architect, the engineer, the mechanic, right? And today we're going to be dealing with the role of the mechanic leader. And so everything ties back to currency. You see, mindset is currency, vision is currency, performance is currency. And because leadership isn't free, yes, let me say that again, leadership isn't free. It's actually an investment. And so, again, I want to welcome you for those of you who are joining me for the very first time. Welcome again. Good morning, Dr. Marcia. So happy to see you with us this morning. And thank you so much. Dr. Marcia was on last week. Good morning, Nicholas. Thank you so much for being here as well. And for those of you who are joining over there on YouTube, so we're streaming live both on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And if you're over there on YouTube, go ahead, drop in the comments where you're joining us from, and also stay to the end and tell us what is it has been your biggest takeaway. So let me share my screen with us this morning. I hope you're able to see my screen. And so, as we talk about the mechanic leader is the one who keeps the belief engine running strong. Because, as I said, for we have been going through this series and we want to recap what we have been doing. We want to recap the different aspects of the leadership journey that we have been talking about. So we have the architect, we have the engineer. And again, as I said, today we're going to be dealing with the mechanic leader. What does that look like? So part in part two, so therefore, in part two, let me just say, in part two, yes, we dealt with the engineer. Today, in part three, we're going to be dealing with the mechanic. In part one, we said that the architect is the one who designs the blueprint. They do not lay the bricks, but they design the blueprint. The engineer ensures that it is feasible. So when an architect designs the blueprint, the engineer do their thing and they ensure that it is feasible. But and then now, the mechanic is the one who keeps the system. So yes, there are three different roles in three different aspects. And you may be wondering, but what does the mechanic have to do with all of this? So let's get into more of the recap, because the architect designs, they have organizational ability. So with the architect, he has a vision, right? So the architect, they have a vision and they design according to that vision. Not what they're seeing with their literal eyes, but what they're seeing in their mind's eye. So that is what they do. They design that vision. And so they also have the organizational ability. What does that look like? It's mindset, right? It's mindset. And then they have interpersonal ability. That's the skill set of an architect leader. The design ability, which translates to the vision, the organizational ability, which translates to the mindset, and the interpersonal ability, which translates to the performance. And so, how many of you as managers, you are frontline manager, you're mid-level manager, or even for those of you who are in, human resource director, you're a human resource director, you're operations director, and you are over designing. So you're dreaming big and you're over designing, but you're actually under engineering. And so that's where leaders drift. And so I want to remind us again that mindset is currency here. And what you design flows from how you think. So, what's going on in your mindset as a leader? What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about as a leader? And so let's talk about we are recapping the first two series before we head into what is it that we're going to be doing today. And so the engineer leader, they takes the blueprint. I'm sorry, I have.
It's all good.
Right. The engineer, I was having a little challenge right here. The engineer leader, what do they do? They build trust. So they take that blueprint and they ask, can this be built? Will it stand? Will it go through the whole structural code? Will it pass the structural code? Is it trustworthy? Is it functional? Is it feasible? Is it in alignment with our reality that is happening in our context? And so, as the engineer leader, their role is to engineer trust as the foundation. So, that's their role, to engineer trust as the foundation. And so, as a leader, that is your base, to engineer trust as the foundation. They know that trust is not assumed. So that's what the engineer leader does. They know that trust is not assumed and that it must be crafted daily through consistency, through fairness and vulnerability based leadership. And so this is vision as a currency. And so every detail must tie back to the bigger picture of what is happening within the organization. So you have taken the vision. So the architect has taken the vision that is nice and pretty on the plaque on the wall, and they have designed for themselves and their team a vision. However, as you go through the process, you're not doing this solo. So you're thinking about it. Okay, now that I've designed this vision, will it stand? Like when we take it to the team, will it stand? Will that stand? And so that's where it goes. So let's talk about the mechanic leader, because that's where we're going to go today. So we've talked about the architect leader in the first lesson. We're talk about the engineer leader last week. And today we're going to be talking about the mechanic leader. Because let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like you're constantly fixing leaks in your team? Like you are a leader and you're a manager, you're a mid-level manager, you are a human resource director, operations director. Have you ever felt like you are constantly fixing leaks in your team? You can drop it in the comments. Every time you decide or every time you patch one hole in your team, another one opens up. And so the truth is that this is not failure, not because you're constantly fixing leaks. That means that you're failing as a leader. This means that is actually leadership. You're doing the maintenance work. And so, because here's the thing, leadership isn't just about building. So yes, the architect designs it, the engineer builds it, but it needs to be maintained. It has to be maintained. And so the best leaders are like mechanics. They keep the belief running smoothly. So what is it that they do apart from keep the belief running smoothly? They catch breakdowns early. So they look at what is happening in the context of their department, in the context of what is happening within their team, and they catch the breakdowns early. And so they know when it is also time to replace worn out habits. And ourselves as leaders, what are some of the habits that we currently have that is not working, that are not working? What are some of those habits? And so we want to break down the role of the mechanic leader. So we want to break down what the role of the mechanic leader looks like. And so what they do, the role of the mechanic leader, they diagnose the breakdowns. So what does that look like? So the low morale that is happening, what's causing the low morale? Because low morale is a symptom of a deeper issue that's going on. The toxic behavior that's happening within the context of your department. So you are a new leader, you are a mid-level manager, you've been in the position for a little while. Or again, I'm talking to our HR directors, our operation directors, our frontline managers and mid-level managers. You are diagnosing the problem that's happening within the context of your team. And what are some of these problems? The toxic behaviors that's happening. And then that again, what's causing this toxicity? Looking below the surface, opening up the hood of the car and looking in and seeing what is happening. And so what they do as well is they again, so when they do that, they replace these worn out practices. And so it's not, and this is not just about replacing practices within the team itself, but looking within self, looking at self and asking some pertinent questions. Asking some pertinent questions of self. Oh, am I as a leader? Am I contributing to this toxicity? Am I contributing to the low morale that I'm seeing, that is happening, that I'm diagnosing? That these are the breakdowns that are happening. So it is about also self-reflection, reflecting on that for self. And so what they do, what this type of leader does is that once they do the diagnosis and they are asking and they are replacing those worn out old practices, not just within the context of the team, but also within self, what happens then is that they start to do regular check-ins. They do regular check-ins and course corrections so that before it gets to that level again, right? Before it gets to that level again. So here's the leadership parallel. Leaders, you must inspect the culture within the context of your team on a regular basis. Look at where the cracks are happening. The motivation, what's happening with the motivation within the team, what's happening with the inspiration within the team, what's happening with the accountability within the team. And so when you do these these culture inspections regularly, you get to prevent or minimize future damages. You get to minimize that. And so because if these are left unchecked, these small cracks in the belief system of your team, they're going to become major breakdown in performance. They're going to become major breakdown in performance. And so, leaders, as you think about this, I want you to ask yourself this question. When was the last time I inspected my team's culture for cracks? And where in my leadership am I treating these breakdowns as one-off issues instead of symptoms of a bigger issue? Where am I treating these as one-offs? Because when you inspect the culture, you are going to refresh not just only your energy. When you diagnose these breakdowns, when you replace the worn out practices, and because you're inspecting regularly, you are refreshing the energy of the team. And that goes a long way. Your team is depending on you. And so the trust, they start, remember that the engineer leader builds the foundation as trust. But if it is not maintained, if that trust is not maintained, it will be eroded. And trust is eroded through the toxic behaviors, the low morale, the compromises that happen. We say one thing, but we do another thing. Or we overpromise and underdeliver as leaders. And that breaks down the trust that is happening, or the trust that was built or was being built. Because remember, we said that trust is not something that happens overnight. It is like cement. You pour it and it takes some time to set. So you keep pouring the cement to build up your base, but it takes time to set. You cannot just pour it and then you pull away what they call them. I don't remember the term right now, but you can't just pull away the lintels or something like that. You can't just pull away the boards. You have to allow it to set for a while. And it's a parallel in leadership. It's that you continually pour and to build trust. But when you build that trust, you have to maintain it through diagnosing the breakdowns early, not letting things go unchecked. Because again, these small cracks, these small things that we allow, that we say that it's going to be, it's okay, that we turn a blind eye to, and we believe that it's nothing. It erodes the trust. And so let's talk about, this is where performance now comes in as currency. Because as leaders, that mindset, as you develop the currency of a growth mindset as a leader, you want maintenance is about the daily deposits. So as the mechanic leader, so you have designed it, you have built it, now it's maintaining it. Because let's be honest, would any of us, or would you drive your car for 50,000 miles without maintenance? Would you, as a person, drive your car for 50,000 miles before or without checking on it, without doing any maintenance at all? So why then would we want to run our team in that way, in terms of the toxic, again, the toxicity, not having the accountability, not holding ourselves accountable, not holding our teammates accountable, not having those conversations, those hard but purposeful conversations, not seeking feedback, not giving feedback. Because feedback is what helps to drive performance. Holding ourselves and our team members accountable to the task is what will also drive performance as currency. And so we audit our energy here as well. We audit our energy here. So this is what great leaders don't wait for a crisis. They practice preventative leadership. And what does that look like again? We talked about the toxic traits and the toxic behaviors. They address that. They nip it in the bud. They see it and they nip it early. They address it early. They don't allow it to fester. And so they also refresh the team's energy through mentoring. They provide mentoring. They may not be the one to mentor the team directly, but they provide mentoring. They may see somebody and they may ask another team member who is capable. And so you're building the leadership capacity within the context of your team. They provide coaching, so they refresh their team's energy through mentoring, through coaching, and through training. Not just motivational talks, but they provide the necessary training, like the mindset training, because so you can have all the strategies. I remember listening to one person and they asked, how were you successful in business? And the person said it was 5% strategy, 95% mindset. And so let's switch that and put that in the context of leadership, in the context of you being the best, not just a manager of processes, but a manager of people. You are now managing and leading people, not just the processes. And so as we think about that we can have all the strategies as managers, as leaders. However, without the right mindset, those strategies will only take us so far. It will only take us so far. And so, as we talk about performance as currency, maintenance is what keeps. So maintaining the camaraderie within the team, maintaining the energy audits, improving the mindset. This is what keeps the belief compounding. So it's like you have an interest-bearing account and you keep maintaining it. You keep maintaining it. Yes, indeed, Nicholas. Nicholas says he loves the mechanic role idea. Leaders really do need to spot and fix breakdowns early. Yes, they need to do that, Nicholas, because once they spot those and they can get to fix them, because it's either if we as leaders don't spot these early, it's going to be a withdrawal. So it's either we're depositing in our team and in ourselves, because as leaders, we need to deposit in ourselves. Because when we deposit in self, we get to deposit in others as well. So what are the things that are making the withdrawals from your leadership account, from your account in terms of your team? What's making those withdrawals? It's those toxic behaviors. It's the lack of accountability. It's the lack of mentoring. It's the lack of coaching, where managers are, not taught how to truly have those conversations, those developmental conversations. And so the performance reviews keep getting pushed back and pushed back, or they are incomplete. Even when they are done or they have submitted them on time, they are incomplete. You have one line, and there is no active development plan on that performance review. And so we need to look at what are the things that makes deposit within our context of leadership. And so let's pose this question for you. And I want to invite the comments here. I want to invite you to talk back at me in the comments. And so where in your leadership, are you treating breakdowns? I think I'd ask the question as one-off instead of the symptoms of a bigger issue, right? And so, because if we think about it, ignoring a breakdown is like, you, and I'm going to go back to the car analogy, right? You wouldn't drive your car for 50,000 miles without maintaining it. Or if you do, here's the thing. Are you going to ignore the breakdown? Or ignoring breakdown is like you turning up the radio so you don't hear the rattle in your car. Like, would you do that? Would you turn the radio up so you don't hear the sound that is happening in the engine, the knocking that is happening? Or better yet, you see your check engine light flashing on the dashboard. Are you going to put tape over it? Not the cellophane tape that you can see through, but you're going to put the masking tape over it so that you don't see that warning light. And so it doesn't solve that, because if you put that over it, it doesn't solve the problem. It's not going to solve the issue. It is still going to be there. And so I want to share this with you, that in the natural context of what you do, the architect, the engineer, and the mechanic roles, however, they all share 5 critical skills, and every leader needs these in their toolkit. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So I had a little interruption. That's life. That's life. Right. So let's do a leader self check right here. Right. Let's do a leader self check. And we place that question there so you can see it. But in the natural context of leadership, right? You have the architect, you have the engineer, you have the mechanic roles. They all differ. So the architect, they do something different. The engineer, they do something different. The mechanic, they do something different. Or whatever, they all share 5 critical skills that all of us as leaders, every leader needs in their toolkit. Every leader needs that in their toolkit. And so let's talk about what does that look like? What are the skill sets? Critical and strategic thinking. This is how you filter your fears. How do you filter your fears as a leader? How do you handle pressure as a leader? Because how you do impacts how you make choices, how you make decisions. And I want you to also know that your fears leak out on your team. Your fears leak out on your team. So just as the oil leaks out of a car when it needs maintaining, your fear leaks out on the team because you're not controlling, or because the mindset discipline has not yet been developed. And so we look at the fears when we talk about whether it is the fear of success, the fear of failure, and especially in the context of leadership, the fear of failure and the fear of criticism is one of the top fears that leaders have. But your fears leak out on your team. What's the next critical skill? Attention to detail. You see, every small detail connects back to the bigger picture. So it's not just one thing, it's not just one of, it's all connected. Just like how we see the gears here, they're connected. And so this is vision with clarity. Because you're going back to your vision as to what is it that you want from your team, what is it that you are looking for within the context of your team. What's the other skill set? Collaboration. Because no leader can build belief on their own. You're not able to build belief and trust on your own. You have to bring in the team in order to do that. And this is where the performance currency comes in. Because no matter how excellent we are, no matter how much knowledge we have, and so as leaders, one of the things that we want to think about is that, yes, I have all this knowledge. And I think Dr. Marcia talks about it already, the curse of knowledge. And I've heard it in other spaces that we have the curse of knowledge. It's like you have all this knowledge and you want to do it yourself. You feel that it is easier and quicker to do it yourself. But when as a leader you do that, what happens is that, again, remember, the crack starts to show up in the foundation, and that foundation is trust. That foundation is trust, and you start to see the cracks showing up. But when we build collaborative effort, then that's where the foundation keeps going. That's where the foundation keeps going, and it stabilizes it. And so we also have adaptability. So adjusting when things are not going according to plan. Not throwing out the vision, but adjusting when the systems stop working. And when I'm talking about the systems, I'm not talking about the regular systems. I'm not talking about your operating systems. I'm talking about your trust, your openness, your vulnerability, your empathy, the emotional intelligence. Because we're talking about mindset for the mechanic leader, for all of these leadership that we have talked about, the architect, the engineer, the mechanic. Mindset, it's mindset, it's vision, it's performance, they all tie together. And so adapting or adjusting when the systems of trust, openness, vulnerability, empathy, and emotional intelligence stops working, what are we going to do? That is where the growth mindset comes in. The currency of a growth mindset, the belief, the flexibility, the focus. What are we focusing on? Are we flexible? What is my belief as a leader? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about my team? And then we go into communication. Communication is not just talking. Communication is the language of leadership. Your language carries belief with it. Your words are the currency that carries belief. What are you saying about your team? What are you saying to your team? What are you saying about yourself as well? And so these 5 critical skills keeps your leadership engine turning. It keeps your leadership engine turning. So I have a question, and I suggest that you ask your team this question. Ask your team this question about you. Yes, it may reveal some blind spots, and that's what we want to do. We want it to reveal the blind spots. We want to reveal spots so we can adjust. So when we are driving, we all have blind spots when we are driving. And therefore, the question that I want to pose, the reflection question that I want to pose to you is that which of these shared skills is your strongest? And which one needs maintenance right now? You want to ask your team that question. Let your team ask your team and tell them to share with you honestly, honest feedback. Putting the ego aside, but having that honest dialogue and asking them, which of these shared skills is my strongest? Am I strongest in critical strategic thinking? Am I strongest in attention to detail? Am I strongest in the collaboration effort? Am I weak in adaptability? What do you think? Am I weak in my communication? And so as we wrap this up this evening, as we wrap this up today, I want us to look at this all together, the leadership belief engine all together. Yes, the architect designs the blueprint, the engineer builds the foundation of trust, and the mechanic keeps it running, inspecting it so that it keeps running, repairing what needs to be repaired, and maintaining the belief so that if minor cracks starts to show, the whole thing don't collapse. And so leaders know the tools that are available. And so mechanics know the tools that are available to them. And so let's put this all together. We need, as a leader, this is what's going to keep the role of belief alive. If you neglect one, the engine will falter. And so these are the currencies of leaders, or the currencies that leaders must invest in on a daily basis. Designing the blueprint, building trust, and inspecting. You keep inspecting, you keep preparing, you keep maintaining. You keep maintaining. And so belief, I want to let you know that belief isn't a one-time project. It's a portfolio investment. It's a system you maintain. It's an ongoing investment. It's paid in the currency of mindset, vision, and performance. And so, what's one maintenance habit that you will start this week to keep the belief strong in your leadership? What's that? And so I want to leave you with this and that. If you want to go deeper, we still have some spots available for the Currency of a Growth Mindset workshop tour, or right, we still have that tour happening. And if you want to go deeper as an HR director, as an operations director, you want to bring this to your team, you want to bring it into your organization, we still have some spots available. So where we'll go a little deeper into how you invest these currencies so that your leadership portfolio compounds growth. And so that's where I want to leave us today. That's where I want to leave us today. Thank you all for joining me for another episode of Finding Freedom Through Confidence. Appreciate you taking the time to join. Appreciate you being here and for sharing your thoughts and takeaways in the comments. Again, if you want to bring this into your organization, to bring this into your team, you can go ahead and send me a direct message and I will definitely reach out to you and we can schedule a conversation on how we can bring the currency of a growth mindset tour to your team. Bye